Professor doesn't know black student is math prodigy, sets impossible equation to MockHim, regrets it. Have you ever been underestimated so badly that it made your stomach burn, but you stayed quiet because you knew your moment was coming? Today's story is about silent brilliance, public humiliation, and the unforgettable moment when arrogance met undeniable genius. At Eastbridge University, a place known for breeding future innovators, mathematicians, and world leaders, reputation means everything. Professors here are treated like intellectual royalty. Their words can lift a student into greatness, or quietly destroy confidence forever. And students? They're expected to fall in line, obey, and never question authority. But every once in a while, someone walks in who doesn't fit the mold. This is the story of Malik Carter. A quiet black freshman with thrift store clothes, a calm voice, and eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies of thought. To most people, he was just another scholarship kid from the wrong side of town. To one particular professor, he was something even smaller, an easy target. When Professor Aldridge, a legendary but arrogant mathematics scholar, decided to publicly mock Malik by assigning him what he proudly called an impossible equation, he expected laughter, embarrassment, and another crushed spirit to add to his unspoken resume. What he did not expect was that this silent student would rewrite everything he thought he knew about genius. This story will remind you that true brilliance doesn't announce itself. It waits. And when it finally speaks, it shakes rooms, careers, and egos. Now sit back, because this is the moment when mockery meets destiny. Malik Carter always sat in the third row, 2 seats from the window. Not because he wanted to, but because he didn't want to be seen. His clothes were simple, clean sneakers, faded jeans, hoodies with no logos. His backpack had a broken zipper held together by a safety pin. He kept his head down, took notes carefully, and never raised his hand unless he was directly called on. To most students, he was invisible. To Professor Henry Aldridge, he was the scholarship kid. Professor Aldridge was a legend at Eastbridge University. Gray-haired, sharp-tongued, and rumored to have once lectured Nobel Prize winners, he walked into classrooms like he owned the building. Students feared his exams, his sarcasm, and his public call-outs. He also had a habit. He picked a student every semester. Someone he considered not cut out for Eastbridge. And this semester, Malik was his target. It started small. During the first week, Aldridge called Malik's name incorrectly, twice. Malik. Mallory. Malik, whatever, he said, waving his hand dismissively. You there? Answer the question. Malik answered perfectly. Aldridge raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. The second time, Malik solved a complex proof on the board, slowly, carefully, but flawlessly. Some students whispered. Aldridge cleared his throat. Lucky guess, he muttered. But by week 4, Malik had a perfect quiz average. And that irritated Aldridge more than he cared to admit. One afternoon, after Malik quietly corrected an error in Aldridge's derivation, respectfully, gently, the room went silent. Aldridge's face hardened. You think you're smarter than me? He snapped. No, sir, Malik replied softly. I just noticed a sign error. Aldridge stared at him for a long moment. Then he smiled. Not a warm smile. A dangerous one. Very well, Mr. Carter, he said. Let's see how smart you really are. The following Monday, Aldridge walked into class carrying a stack of papers thicker than usual. This, he announced, slapping them onto his desk, is your next assignment. Groans filled the room. He continued, there is one special problem at the end. Only one student will be required to attempt it. The room grew quiet. Aldridge slowly turned his gaze to Malik. Mr. Carter. Malik looked up. You will solve the final equation. A few students chuckled. Someone whispered, he's done. Aldridge smirked. This problem is not found in your textbook. It is not found in any of your references. In fact, I developed it myself based on unsolved conjectures. A student raised a hand. Sir, does it even have a solution? Aldrich tilted his head. That, he said, is the point. Malik felt his stomach tighten. Aldrich continued, you have 1 week. If you fail, I will publicly demonstrate the correct reasoning to show you the level required at this institution. Malik nodded quietly. Yes, sir. When he walked out of class that day, laughter followed him down the hallway. You're about to get humbled, bro, one guy snickered. Another said, man, Aldrich just ended his scholarship. Malik didn't respond. He went straight to the library. He didn't have a fancy laptop. Just a cracked tablet and a spiral notebook filled with handwriting so tight it looked printed. He stared at the equation. At first, it looked monstrous. Nested integrals. Complex variables. An unfamiliar structure that seemed deliberately chaotic. But as Malik leaned closer, something inside him stirred. He recognized a pattern. Not from textbooks. From his childhood. He grew up in a one-bedroom apartment where his mother worked 2 jobs and his father taught him math with chalk on cardboard boxes. They didn't have money for tutors, but they had curiosity. His father challenged him with riddles, patterns, number spirals, and theoretical puzzles far beyond grade level. Malik wasn't trained. He was shaped. And now, staring at Aldrich's impossible equation, he realized something chilling. It wasn't impossible. It was incomplete. 3 nights passed. Malik barely slept. He rewrote the equation 6 times, transforming it, folding it inward, uncovering hidden symmetry. By the 4th night, he whispered to himself. He made a mistake. By the 6th, he had proof. On the 7th morning, Malik walked into class with calm eyes and steady hands. Professor Aldrich stood at the front, arms crossed. Well? Aldrich asked loudly. Did reality set in, Mr. Carter? Malik slowly raised his hand. I believe your equation can be solved, he said. The room erupted in laughter. Aldrich let them laugh. Then he stepped forward. Come to the board, he said coldly. Malik stood. And that was the moment everything began to change. Malik walked to the board while laughter still rolled through the lecture hall like loose stones down a hill. Professor Aldrich leaned against his desk, arms folded, wearing the calm smile of a man who already believed he had won. Take your time, Aldrich said. We'll all enjoy the lesson. Malik picked up the chalk. His hand didn't shake. He stared at the massive equation, then quietly erased a small section on the far left. A student gasped. Hey, he's changing it, someone whispered. Malik wrote a new symbol in its place. Then another. Then he stepped back and said softly, your original formulation violates continuity conditions under complex extension. A ripple of confusion moved across the room. Aldrich's smile faltered slightly. Excuse me. Malik continued. You introduced a variable that assumes convergence but never defined its boundary behavior. That makes the expression unsolvable, not impossible, just incomplete. The room went silent. Malik began writing. Line after line, transformation after transformation, he broke the massive structure down into something elegant, almost beautiful. He substituted functions, collapsed integrals, and exposed a hidden symmetry that suddenly made the problem simple. Students leaned forward. Phones slowly lifted. Even the teaching assistant stopped typing. Aldrich took a step closer to the board. That's not how, he started. Malik paused. It is, sir. If you define the missing condition. He wrote one final symbol. Then circled the result. A clean, precise solution stared back at the class. For 5 full seconds, no one spoke. Then someone whispered, he solved it. Another voice, bro, that was the impossible problem. Aldrich stared at the board like it had personally betrayed him. That equation, he said hoarsely, was modeled after an unsolved conjecture. Malik turned. Yes, sir. But your version assumed a boundary that doesn't exist. Once corrected, it collapses into a solvable form. The professor's mouth opened. Closed. Then he slowly nodded. You're saying I made an error. Malik didn't smile. He didn't brag. He simply nodded. Yes, sir. The room erupted. Students stood. Some clapped. Others stared at Malik like they were witnessing something rare and dangerous. Aldrich exhaled sharply. Mr. Carter, he said, lowering his voice, where did you learn to think like this? Malik hesitated. My dad, he said. He taught me before he passed. The room softened. Aldrich slowly turned to the class. Class dismissed. Students rushed Malik. Bro, you're insane. You're a genius. Are you secretly a prodigy or something? Malik just smiled politely and slipped out. But the story didn't end there. 2 days later, Malik was summoned to the dean's office. Inside sat 3 department heads, and Professor Aldrich. Malik stood quietly. Mr. Carter, the dean said, Professor Aldrich has reviewed your solution. Aldrich cleared his throat. It's being submitted for publication. Malik blinked. What? The correction you discovered addresses a flaw that has confused graduate researchers for years, Aldrich admitted. You didn't just solve my equation. You corrected my framework. The dean leaned forward. We'd like to place you in the Accelerated Honors Research track. Malik swallowed. They weren't done. You'll also be receiving a full research stipend. Malik's eyes watered. A week later, Aldrich stopped him in the hallway. Mr. Carter, he said quietly, I misjudged you. Malik nodded. A lot of people do. Aldrich gave a small, honest smile. I won't again. From that day on, Malik Carter was no longer invisible. He became the student professors asked for by name. The quiet genius who rewrote an impossible equation. The boy who proved that brilliance doesn't need permission. And the reminder that underestimating someone might be the last mistake you ever make. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story so others can be reminded that true genius often walks in quietly. Your support keeps these powerful stories coming.